Story 1. He was from Italy and we live in Eastern Canada. We completed the last 4 years of school together. We started talking a few years after we both graduated, and all he could talk about was his Italian heritage, but not in an interesting way. More like I would ask him what's up, and he would say, "Making pasta, you know why?" And the answer was because he's Italian. But this would happen every single day. So he was just too Italian for me, I guess. Story 2. I went on a breakfast date with a man one time. He spread ketchup across his entire plate and then chopped all the food into one big pile. Pancakes were involved. In that moment, I knew I could never see him again. Story 3. I once received a topless picture from a guy I dated at the time. Below the picture, he typed, "This is called pure strength and force, kitty." I don't know what's worse, the way he flexed his muscles was very cringy. The message he sent, or the fact he called me kitty. It's even worse in my first language. Story 4. This girl was beautiful, driven, intelligent. We got along well. She was perfect, except that she would snap her fingers whenever someone said something she liked. Every conversation was peppered with snaps. She did it instead of applauding at concerts too. Eventually, I realized that this could not be my life. Story 5. Oh God, my time to shine. I was dating this sweet, sweet boy, and he was like, "I do an amazing Beavis impression." From Beavis and Butthead. And he was right. He did. He was so spot on that I realized he looked just like Beavis. Blonde, kinda squinted, a little overbite. After that, I was done. I felt guilty about it and told him it was my grandmother's fault. Edit. Since this has gotten a lot more traction than I thought, if you're about 50 years old and this sounds familiar, just know that I am very sorry. Story 6. Not me, but the pettiest thing I've seen people do is not date someone with an Android phone when they use an iPhone. They see that green text and it's immediately an issue for them. That's about as petty as you can get. Story 7. Honestly, if they breathe or eat or swallow too loudly, I cannot handle it. It is petty, I know. But I cannot spend the rest of my life listening to someone breathe like a 70-year-old man asleep on a chair, or chew or swallow like a cow. Story 8. I haven't dated in 22 years, but after my mother's divorce, she once turned down a second date with a guy because he didn't order appetizers on their first date. Update. I feel a little guilty now, like I threw my mom under the bus. I don't think it had anything to do with money. She was raised in the 1950s and 1960s, and I think she was too shy or traditional to ask for her own appetizers, but she felt like it would have been polite for him to offer. It's definitely petty, and we make fun of her, and she laughs at herself about it now. But I see how it could make her sound like a princess. Story 9. I dated a really cute lady in my early 20s, pretty much my type, super sweet, but she did this weird exhale or scoff thing consistently in conversation when she didn't like something, and it became so noticeable I was going to lose my mind. I finally was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Kind of a jerk move on my part, but it was too much. Story 10. Someone who takes forever to get ready to go literally anywhere. I once dated a girl, and it literally took her 40 minutes to get ready to walk the dog for 15 minutes with me. Mind you, this was not a phobia, and for the record, she didn't wear any makeup nor did she wear anything special that might explain the slow pace. Just basically talking my ears off and spending an eternity tying her shoelaces. It even left me with a small existential crisis, wondering if I would even be cut out for children. But choosing a life like this with an adult, I have way too little patience for that, sorry. Story 11. I went on a first date with a guy to a coffee shop. I got there before him and was sitting at a table waiting. He walked up, and instead of approaching and saying, "Excuse me, are you my name?" he very loudly yelled, "My name?" And everyone around turned and looked at him while I wished I could disappear into the bushes. It was over then and there. I think he thought he was being manly and dominant or something, but I'm a private, introverted person, and that made my skin crawl. Story 12. Doesn't smell right. I don't mean lack of hygiene, just if I don't like their natural scent, it's not going to work long term. I'm not sure this is actually petty, though. Gets mad when driving. Adult emotional regulation is a must, and I don't want to be the spectator to someone's temper. Story 13. How they conduct themselves at the store when they have issues or on the road. Nothing cuter than someone who has a meltdown capable of causing physical harm or death over a trivial inconvenience. Story 14. 17 years ago, this guy was interested in me. He was cute and everything, but I was young, and I hated his surfer necklace so much. I kept turning him down because of that necklace. We have now been together for 16 years, married for 12, with 3 kids. Rest in peace to the necklace. It didn't survive. Story 15. When they are glued to their phone 24/7, I am aware we are in the age of smartphones, but if they cannot ever just live fully in the moment once in a while or are on their phone every time we are having a conversation, it turns me away. Story 16. Bad drivers. Crawling in the passing lane, oblivious to everyone passing on the right and the dirty looks. Dude couldn't take his eyes off the road for a second without drifting into another lane. Sober. No second date. I don't think this qualifies as petty reasons though. Story 17. Height. I'm 6'4". Short girls are just awkward to be with when there's that much of a height difference. So anyways, my wife hid her shortness with heels for multiple dates until we went bowling, but I already kind of liked her, so she won that one. Story 18. Does not say please or thank you to servers or anyone in a customer service role. I feel the need to say please and thank you on their behalf, and that is a job I just cannot take on for life. Story 19. When she uses the word infer when she obviously means imply. I know some guys would put up with that kind of thing, but frankly, I can't imagine why. Story 20. I once had a girl interested in me. She was very attractive, athletic body, and all that jazz. The problem was, she had the exact same name as my best friend, who is a guy. I couldn't do it. Story 21. I went on a first date with a girl. She was very attractive and funny, and we had a lot of laughs and great conversation over dinner. I was driving her back to her place, and she started singing along with the radio. She was so tone-deaf that it was like listening to fingernails on a chalkboard. I never asked for a second date. Story 22. Loud eating. One lip smack and I'm out. I know I will never be able to deal with it. Same with snoring. Both of my parents snore like crazy. They sound like starting a mower. I'm not a violent person, but I've thrown a couple of pillows out of sleep deprivation. One time I was so into a guy and he clapped at the end of a movie, and I was definitely less attracted to him. I felt pressured to clap with him, and I was so embarrassed. Just remembered it was a Marvel movie as well. Adding guys who put pictures of their car in their dating profiles, and people who don't put the shopping cart back or clothes back when shopping. Or stay past closing time at restaurants or stores. Story 23. He talks a lot. I am an introvert. He is not. He is good looking, amazing at his job, highly intelligent, and funny. He is also a prankster who loves to play pranks on me. Can get annoying, but I enjoy his childlike enthusiasm. He is also an all-around good guy. He loves to take care of the people he cares a lot about. For the most part, he is a great conversationalist. However, when he starts talking, there is no off button. Story 24. Her vocal tone was very cutesy, if that makes sense. Like she was always talking to babies or puppies. I remember thinking, I will never live it down if anyone I know meets this person. Story 25. I'm not sure if it's petty, but she slept with a guy at my work when he first got there. The man was slightly above a caveman's intelligence and couldn't finish a sentence without using offensive language. She was constantly asking me to hang out, get to know each other, etc. By the end of it all, she just started asking if we could just be intimate. I just couldn't, and I was honest about it too. I didn't want to go where the caveman was. Story 26. For many years when I was younger, I completely refused to date any man who was divorced or did not have a car. A few years later, I not only dated a man who had no car and was divorced, but I also married him for almost 40 years. Story 27. I would not date someone who is a superfan of media I really dislike. If someone is obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's or Family Guy, it is probably not going to work. Story 28. Super into sports guys. The ones who can't sit on their behinds for more than 20 minutes and will eat a small chicken coop every week with rice and broccoli only. I'm not saying sports are bad. On the contrary, actually. But being a health freak and always having too much energy is just not for me. Also, guys who never lived alone away from family. I want a man who can take care of himself and not just trade in mommy for a girlfriend who will continue taking care of him. Story 29. My ex smacked her lips when she ate and chewed with her mouth open. I dropped so many hints. I even said, man, someone at my work was smacking their lips eating with their mouth open, and I felt like throwing up. Nothing changed except our relationship status. Story 30. Perfect girl. Beautiful, smart, charming, but she would mark her place in books by tearing off the corner of the page she was currently on to use as a bookmark. Couldn't live that way. Story 31. If they come on too strong, I prefer men that are a bit shy and try to get to know me as a friend first. It makes me feel really uncomfortable when men I don't know try to flirt with me. Chill out, brother. Story 32. I'm in my 40s. Female. If a man gets the majority of his information from podcasts, I heard of neckbeards, small chin goatees like the ones from the 90s, chops, any peacocking type hairstyle, people who look like Chris Angel. Story 33. If they don't know how to drive, I don't think it's that petty, but I've been told it is. It just makes things really inconvenient, and I don't want to be the one doing all the driving. Story 34. Honestly, and I know this is petty as hell, but bad grammar drives me up a wall. Saying things like, I loaned it to them instead of, I borrowed it to them. Or doing something by accident instead of on accident. Or using words like, regardless or disoriented. I'm cringing right now just from typing these things. Story 35. My friend, a foodie, broke up with a girl because she was allergic to garlic, and this completely confused him. Visions of garlic-free meals for life haunted him. He tried to give her another chance when she offered to cook with him at her place and prove they could prepare a good meal without garlic. He went into the freezer to retrieve some frozen chicken and found her recently deceased cat in there. She was waiting to deliver it for cremation. Story 36. Had an ex that was 32 when we started dating 5 years ago. She had only ever lived with family, never learned to drive, had no adult skills, and talked like a baby. I didn't know all that before I let her move in. Getting her out took a very long time. So from now on, I've got a checklist. Story 37. She had sleep apnea and would not treat it. She was very attractive and very sweet, and though there were other, more serious things I could look past, I just could not stay with someone I could not sleep near. I do not mind snoring, either. The almost yelled snorts and gasps, like a heart attack victim's agonal breaths. I could not do it. It is not what broke it per se, but it was one of the last straws. Story 38. Back when I was single, I started talking to a guy on Tinder. He was extremely attractive, clever, funny, and we had so much in common. Immediate click. However, he made podcasts. They were always an hour long at least, and they were the most boring, dry, painful things to listen to. He'd churn out one every couple of days and always expected me to listen to them immediately, then wanted to talk about them for hours. After a couple of weeks of this, I bailed. I absolutely could not spend the foreseeable future spending hours a day on these podcasts. After that, I found myself immediately turned off anytime a guy told me he had a podcast. Story 39. If a guy wears tight shirts, especially turtlenecks, no matter their physique, it just turns me totally off. Female, 40s, married 20 years, not looking to date, but if I was, that would be a deal breaker. Story 40. I won't date a guy with a food allergy because I want to be able to eat anything and everything and share food. Peanut allergy? I don't need that stress in my life. Story 41. So I know I'm about to get my ass handed to me, but to hell with it. There's absolutely no way that I could date a Trump supporter or anyone in the Make America Great Again /QAnon/ they control the weather movement. I could date a level-headed Republican, I'm pretty sure, but the other stuff is absolutely non-negotiable. Before 2015, I never cared about political affiliation. Today, though, completely different ball game. Story 42. Mouth breathers can't stand people who just walk around with their mouths open. I know some people can't physically breathe through their nose, but I just find it really unattractive. Story 43. I had a boyfriend who had a million genuine red flags I let slide, but I couldn't get past it when he told me his favorite color was purple. I hate purple, and it just felt like a metaphor for the entire relationship. Story 44. Religion. I have been with two Christian girls throughout my lifetime, and both ended the relationship in the most evil way imaginable. I think it has to do with the fact that they believe they can pray it off later. I have been heartbroken plenty of times, but these girls did the most damage for sure.